here that many of us, I certainly myself, have suffered from. A poll was taken not too long ago where over 70% of residents of Puget Sound said they really support cleaning up Puget Sound, or having a clean Puget Sound. But only 23% of the same respondents thought that there was any problem with Puget Sound. And of course, for those of us who are paying a little bit more attention, Puget Sound is a very threatened. It's a giant estuary with 14 major river systems coming in, and it's one of the most threatened estuaries in North America, in spite of the fact that it still looks really beautiful from a surface vantage, just about any place in the Sound. So I made this part of my pilgrimage to chart a course through the most industrialized part of the Puget Sound Basin, and found that I was able to go 50 miles without ever leaving a heavily industrial corridor. And that particular ride began in a Superfund site. The ferry that comes in from Vashon Island comes in right next door to the old Asarco-Tacoma smelter, one of the most toxic parts of the whole Puget Sound Basin. And it ends in a Superfund site 5 miles long. The Superfund sites are the designated highly toxic places by the Environmental Protection Agency that need serious federal funding to deal with the toxicity that's collected there. So this was a difficult part of my pilgrimage, but a really instructive one. I cross the 11th Street Bridge over the Thea Foss Waterway and ride along the edge of the Simpson Pulp Mill's massive complex that hugs the river's main outflow into Commencement Bay. I stop to study the maze of stacks and boilers, trying to draw sense and logic from the confusion of its forms. I try to imagine what it would look like to the people who work here, who know its inner logic by heart. The rain has begun falling again as heavy clouds press down on the hills, obscuring the city. I pull on my rain gear to ward off the rain and the chill. The air is laced with acrid smells, and the din of machinery and traffic pulses intensely across the delta. I am left with the image of a river in chains. I do not feel judgment toward the people who work here. This place is their home. The thrum of machinery is the sound of a paycheck. I know that well. For a fisherman with a family to feed, the whine of hydraulic winches on the deck of a sailboat, the net straining through the power block, can be music from the spheres when the fish are hitting hard. It is the sound of money in the bank, of camaraderie and shared hard work. Even the smell of diesel fumes from the 671 humming in the engine room can carry the pleasing aroma of a livelihood being met. Why should it be any different for the people here? Still, the questions linger. How did we get caught with this pile of ecological debts? How did we ever come to peace with a life so far removed from our roots in the earth and from our connections to the original vitality of these rivers? I look out over the searing contradictions of the port, knowing how little time remains for us to get it right. Will it be the rising sea levels of climate change that finally set this river free? Or will its path back to wholeness run through us rather than around us? I have no idea, but I suspect the time for finding these answers may be shorter than we currently imagine. Before heading on my way, I utter a prayer that is part of my daily meditation practice at home. I stand fully facing the river and the mill, and I open my senses to the whole sweep of it, the clouds and the wind, the bay and the river, the hum of the city, all just as it is. I let my impulses toward judgment drain out into the concrete beneath me. Then I offer this prayer, striving with all my might to mean the words that I say. May the life of this river be free from distress and the causes of distress. May all who live here be safe and free from harm. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they find their way into a future where all can thrive together in abundance. And further up, when I get into the Duwamish estuary, into the Superfund site of the Duwamish, and I'm really indebted to Mike Sato from People for Puget Sound for his book. What is it, Mike? The Taming of a River. Are you still here? No.
Price of Taming a River.
The Price of Taming a River. A wonderful book about the history of the Duwamish River and what's happened to it. Just a very, very brief history lesson here. The Duwamish flows out into Seattle's Elliott Bay, and when settlers arrived here, the Green River and the White River came up from the south to join the Duwamish, and the Black River flowed out, was where Lake Washington drained in those days. And it drained into the Green River, and then the Duwamish became, where all those rivers came together, was where the Duwamish, from there to Tidewater, the Duwamish River, which was one of Chief Seattle's home tribes, the Squamish tribe and the Duwamish tribe. And in 1906, after a huge flood in the Duwamish, the White River was diverted down into the Puyallup, and and then in 1916, when the ship canal was dug, the level of the lake was dropped several feet, which killed the Black River. So that river no longer exists, and the Duwamish now flows to Tidewater with 25% of its original flow. One of the things I do for work is I teach meditation and yoga to vets at the VA hospital. Actually, my colleague, Dr. David Carney from the VA, is here as well, and he started this program, invited me to join him in it. There was a Vietnam vet named John Beal. I'm going to read just a bit of his story, who spent 3 decades restoring a small tributary of the Duwamish. A very inspiring story. The interurban bike trail parts ways with the railroad grade and morphs into the Green River Trail in Tukwila, near the old confluence of the Black River, which now masquerades as Interstate 405 flowing backward into Renton. Shorn of its former limbs, with the Black and White rivers no longer adding their flow to this river, the Duwamish is a shadow of its former self. Technically, just a continuation of the Green all the way out to Tidewater. Like me at this moment, it is a river running on fumes. The bike trail skirts South Center Mall and follows the river through a series of meandering curves and green belts that serve as the backyard for upscale corporate office headquarters. I stop at the Ham Creek Restoration Project, a short walk from some of the most contaminated sites in Washington, where a Vietnam veteran named John Beal